Hey y'all, this is David, the Georgia photographer, and today I'm going to finally do the lens review on my 24-90 SL variable zoom for my Leica SL2. To give you a little bit of background on this lens, this was my first autofocus Leica SL mount lens that I ever bought. I got it second-handed and I got it for a significant discount because of that. It had a little bit of surface wear on it and nothing that would impede operation and nothing that was really grotesquely wrong. Honestly, I think I've scuffed it more since I've owned it than it was when I bought it. It's 24-90 millimeters. You know, Leica has to one-up the regular guys, I guess, a little, but it's a variable aperture prime instead of a fixed one. So it's f2.8 at 24 millimeters and it's f4 at 90 millimeters. It has an 82 millimeter front filter thread. It says E82 right here on it. It says it's a Vario Elmarit SL aspheric. One thing you learn really quickly about this lens is heavy. It's not your average walk around lens. If you have a lighter lens in your arsenal, I suggest you use it. This thing weighs a ton. It's more of a pro lens. I mean, you can do what you want with it. It's your lens, but man, it's heavy. Now, I did use it in a specific application last weekend. Yes, last weekend. Oh, hey, I was going to look up what kind of focus motor it has because it was rumored to have dual focus motors. And in my search to find out if it had dual focus motors, I learned so much more about this amazing lens. It has 11 anomalous partial dispersion elements. It has 4 aspherical elements. It has the aperture ranges from f22 to f2.8 at 24 millimeter and f4, I'm assuming, to f22 on 90 millimeter. Let me just test that right now. Let's see, let's wake up the camera. All right. No, f22, it's limited. So it's just f4 on 90 millimeter wide open. It has a stepping autofocus motor and a linear positioning motor. Of course, it's internal focus. The lens has image stabilization in it. I didn't know that. It has 3.5 stops of optical stabilization in the lens. Man, there went a pretty cool street photo, and I let it miss talking to you guys. Some days, that's the way it works. A woman dressed in all black with blonde hair was crossing the street in like a beam of light, and it would have been a really cool photo. But It was almost like a Beatles crossing the road kind of scene. That 3.5 stops of stabilization works in conjunction with the image stabilization in the SL2 body. Probably giving me like 6 or 7 stops of stabilization, some kind of ludicrous amount of stabilization. I have found Camera Corp of Australia has all this data. Oh, it'll focus down to 0.3 meters, like 1 foot minimum. 18 elements and 6 moving groups. All the anomalous partial dispersion elements are for correction of chromatic aberrations. Very fast, almost silent focusing, and it is. It's a crazy good lens. All right, let's get some more photos. Tell you the story about my unorthodox use of the 24-90. My family sings a music called Sacred Harp, and I'll normally photograph the singings, and it's just kind of what I do. Normally I shoot a Nikon D810 and 70-200, and it works reasonably well. I normally have pretty good service out of that, but I wanted to use my 24-90, and I thought, hey, I'll see if it'll work if I stick it on my CL. It worked beautifully. But I was able to photograph the Antioch singing and get stunningly sharp photos in a fairly dim venue. I mean, the sunlight was pouring in the windows, but you have to run exposure compensation to get the frame to expose, because inside the building, it sees the window as so much light, it'll make everything else seem dark. And I still had to raise a couple of them about a half a stop or so in post, but with its image stabilization in the lens, the CL knows how to work with that. I mean, it's an L mount Leica lens. It works perfectly on it, and yeah, the autofocus worked. Everything worked perfectly. I just had to figure out how to drive the focus point, because the CL doesn't have back button focus. It's only got shutter release focus, so I just had to figure out how to position the focus point so I could keep the subject in focus, and I ran autofocus continuous, and it worked really well. That's a way to use this lens in another application, and I'm gonna have to stop because of this copyrighted music. Redneck kids in their trucks. He had his country music blaring with all his windows rolled down. He thinks he's cool on a Thursday night driving up and down Broad Street. I used to be that kid. That's why I can talk. Except for I drove an Oldsmobile. The lens performed surprisingly well on the CL. I didn't expect it to work great, because the CL is not really designed for a lens of this magnitude, but it ran it beautifully. So there's cross-platform compatibility there. You know, it works great. I ain't gonna do a recommendation. This is a lens that if you do like, it'd be a good landscape lens as well. It'd work great for that. But yeah, if you want a lens that'll cover a bunch or check a bunch of the boxes, give you all that you need, variability, and 24 millimeters, it's a good lens. It's great for portraiture. I mean, it's razor sharp. And at f2.8 and 24 and f4 seems like slow lens for portraiture, and if you want super creamy background, you'll probably want a little more aperture. But for general photo work, works beautifully. Gives you decent depth of field so that you get enough in focus, it looks right. You know, you got to bear that in mind sometimes. So with that, this is David, the Georgia photographer, and until next time, get your camera out and go take a picture with it, all right? We'll see you later. Bye-bye.